Good morning, Mad World. I am Coach Sess, sitting here checking out the scenery after the snow event we just recently had. Everything seems to be okay here where I am. It's raining now. Doesn't seem to be any ice on the ground. Traffic's moving along smoothly. I hope you are having the same results, that you're able to get to work or wherever you need to be. I don't see any traffic buildup or damages. I don't see cars stalled out on the side of the road or anything like that. So again, I hope you're having the same results. And I hope everyone's safe. I hope everyone can get to their training environments today. I hope everyone can get to work safely. I know a lot of you have schools out, so you're going to have to deal with the children today, and it's pretty much okay. Give them a hug, let them know they're loved. I want to quickly talk about a mentality that is common. It's usually in every combat sport or competitive environment, but I'm seeing it more and more in mixed martial arts. And because I'm allowed to go from gym to gym that aren't necessarily fighters of mine, but I get to train with varying people and talk to fighters on an individual basis, and I try to keep a lot of the conversations that we have with one another private. I don't try to run back to their coaches or their teammates and say, hey, so-and-so said this about you, or they feel this a way about it, a certain situation. But one of the things that happens sometimes in a gym is, especially when you come from a previous training background, you fall into the mixed martial arts, you fall in love with it, and as you're training, you realize that you're not the best anymore at what you do. If you came from wrestling and you go to mixed martial arts, you find that you're not the best. Now, what you may find out is that you can adapt over time, but you're probably upset because you haven't adapted as quickly as you like. And I've seen this with guys who come from Taekwondo. They get into MMA, they're frustrated. Guys who come from boxing, they're frustrated. Previous jiu-jitsu, they're frustrated. So what's going on there? And what is really happening is because in their environments, in their individual isolated environment, they were pretty good at what they did. And what creates this frustration is not being second fiddle, third fiddle to a guy who's better at those individual arts. That's not the problem. The problem is that they usually find that there's a guy who didn't train previously, who may not have a quote-unquote base art, who is doing better than they are. And that is because boxing tends to be about the volume punching, the power punching, the boxing mechanics. Wrestling about the endurance, the tenacity, the wrestling mechanics. Jiu-jitsu about relaxation, transitional movement, jiu-jitsu mechanics. And Thai boxing, it's all about the pressure style, fighting in the clinch, fighting in the kick range. It's all about the Muay Thai mechanics. MMA doesn't have a systemized set of mechanics across the board. It hasn't been around hundreds and hundreds of years to have given itself a structure just yet that's uniform. What you have is individual gyms who may be coming up with their own systemized ways of doing things, and that will only play itself out in the end once we see where the sport takes us 100 years from now. But because it doesn't have that setup, it lends itself, it leans towards one aspect of combat that's very important, and that's the mental. So mixed martial arts, more than any other combat sport, is about decision making. It's about choices, because you have so many things that you can pull from. We've talked about this in the past. Your mixed martial arts DNA. What's along your MMA spine? Do you have wrestling? Do you have boxing? Do you have jiu-jitsu? Do you have judo? Do you have Wing Chun? Do you have taekwondo? Do you have karate? Whatever you put along your MMA spine will change how you perform the art. With that being true, an athlete coming into the environment, his skills will change accordingly to his interest. If you decide that you want to kick more like a karate person, although your instructor is teaching Muay Thai, and he is telling you more and more, kick like this, but you choose to kick a different way, that is the situation. You choose to kick a certain way. So your overall game is going to be based more so on choices. You have to figure out how to merge these different arts together by choices, by situations. If the instructor has a certain format to his method, his way of teaching, and he seems to be reaching certain fighters who are outperforming you, look at the similarities. I can almost believe and guess that they have a similar structure to the coaching philosophy of the coach. And that's why they're adapting quicker, because they're getting information that's relevant to their situation. So they don't have to make a lot of, they don't have to go through a longer and a larger reasoning process, because that coach is already taken out a lot of the problems that he's faced in the past. He's taken them the short route. You're going the long route. So in the physical sense, you're being outworked because of your hesitation, because of the mental blocks that are there. And then you're having to go back and try to figure out how to add what you specifically like for what you're doing, how to undo. Now, what I like to do, because I know this is a reality, I try to get to know the fighters individually, and I try to come up with solutions by incorporating whatever it is the fighter brings to the table, so that he or she is not that far behind. I try to work with everybody on a one-on-one basis according to how they really learn. Not so much in terms of how they want to fight. Everybody thinks they want to fight a certain way. And that's because we look at who's come before us. Anderson Silva's been out there, so you want to fight like Anderson. I want John Jones. You think you have certain attributes that resemble these athletes, so you try to fight like them. That's not what I do. As far as your own individual talents, I like to look at your attributes. How tall are you? How fast are you? How strong are you? Although you have a previous background, how long did you train? How often did you train? What was your frequency? You know, who were your coaches? What was the relationship with your previous teammates? What was the relationship with the previous gym? How many different gyms? How many fights have you had? I try to go deeper than just surface level to get to what's causing you the most problems. I always like to ask myself this question, is why are you here? Why are you with me? How did we get to be here at the same time? Especially if you've had previous experience, previous coaches, previous teammates, and they were pretty good. How did you end up here? Why did you leave that situation? And sometimes you find out that oh, I was a wrestler. I graduated college and I'm from here. It makes sense. And in a situation like that, what I'll do is I'll go, okay, so that wrestler, and I'll give you an example. I have a trainee, friend, competitor, champion, who I've trained in the past, Ricky Saxton. Ricky graduated college, and I think it was the year before he graduated college. He came to Fayetteville because his family's there. He came to Fayetteville, and he visited for a few weeks in the summer, and he was a very good wrestler. And then the following year, he graduated. And then he was there for a while, so I knew that he wanted to train. I knew he wanted to compete because it's in his blood. And he just recently competed in a grappling super fight. So shout out to Ricky. The thing is that I tried to recreate or set up an environment in the gym that was similar to what he had in the wrestling room. And I tried to do it from an MMA perspective, because I knew that he would give me the best responses if that environment was already similar to what he was just coming from. And that would do two things. It would help him thrive, learn all the skills in a very short period of time. And would also help me learn from him, so that I could cater a training routine, a training focused around his style of learning, his style of engagement. And this also happened with another fighter that I trained, Jesse Herzog. Shout out to Weapon X. He came from a boxing gym, and quickly I set up an environment that was similar and conducive to his learning patterns, to his skill sets. And we quickly, so many of you have seen the videos of me doing the catch drill. And the Coach Seth's catch drill is all about Jesse Herzog. I needed something that kept him engaged. I needed something that challenged him. And I needed something that will continually work his basics, but also act as a measuring tool for me, a coaching tool, so that I can keep improving his overall MMA progress. And that was the reason I came up with that drill. And the benefit of that drill was that I found that when I applied it to guys who had never boxed, guys like Ricky Saxton, I was able to take their striking skills to a higher level in a very short period of time. I've actually worked that same drill with guys who have, say, maybe 6 months boxing training. And when I went to their gym, they were getting dominated. They were getting beat up. And I worked with them for 1 month. And in 1 month, they were able to reasonably spar with the guys who had been there 3 to 4 years. But that's enough. That's a sidebar. That's another story in itself I want to tell you about. But my point is that and I set up an environment for both of these athletes so that they could be successful, and they became very competitive and assets to the training team, to the team itself. And when I say competitive, I mean that they were able to implement their own style, their own swagger, their own situation into the training environment and did not feel alienated. They didn't feel as if someone was necessarily better than them on a whole. They had skills and abilities that they could offer and were quite successful at being leaders in the gym, eventually champions in the gym. And this type of by having this type of environment, it gave them an edge. You don't have to be jealous of your teammates. You just need the right environment to move along and stay competitive and focused, and you will do okay. Hey, I'm Coach Sess, and you've had words with the Mad Coach.